I'm very, very reluctant to categorize just about anyone as genuinely evil, because in my experience, there are very, very few evil people. Vladimir Putin, that's evil. But just about anyone else who's having an honest disagreement, I don't put in that category at all. And one of the symptoms of polarization that we have is that people are willing to cast their ideological enemies or just someone who disagrees with them on something as evil. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a disaster. I'm just myself very much not on that page. And I think that we should try and get as many people away from that page as we can.
Do you think that makes you a better or worse politician?
Probably a worse politician, because political figures like to cast things as conflicts between good and evil. And it's like, hey, you got to get us the resources we need to defeat evil this one more time. And if we do this, then all will be well. I mean, I think that's one reason why the dissatisfaction among Democrats right now is pronounced, is because it was framed as defeat Trump, and then all these incredible things will happen. Like one of the things that boggles my mind when I hear it, and I hear it all the time, is when a political figure talks about, it's like, hey, if you elect me, we will defeat racism, defeat sexism, and I'm just like, okay, let me get this straight.
We'll applaud that, by the way. We stand up and get excited about that.
Let me get this straight. If you're in office, then we won't be a racist society or a sexist society anymore. It's like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, it's kind of the thing that we're kind of excited about Obama on. It's like, this will mean we're not racist anymore. So when we continue to make those appeals and then the reality does not change, then people get kind of fatigued. This week on Forward, The Batman, the greatest movie of all time. Zach Grauman joins the ranks of published authorhood. His new book, Longshot, is available for sale now. And what Russia's invasion of Ukraine tells us about America as a force for good in the world. This week on Forward. Welcome back. This week on Forward, we have a bunch of new developments that have come down the pipe. But first, I want to come clean and say that Zach has seen Batman and I have not.
And I'm rubbing it in, man. This movie, stop what you're doing, stop listening to this podcast and go see Batman. I'm just kidding. Do it after you listen to this podcast.
Is it technically The Batman?
Probably right.
Yeah,
you're probably right. But it's awesome.
I can't wait to see it. So I kind of wanted to see it, but then it didn't work out. So I'm seeing it at the end of this week. And I have to say, it's given me something to look forward to, because I'm like, I'm going to go see it.
I agree. I haven't felt that type of energy. Like, I'm excited about this, sadly, like in a while, because when you feel it, when you're excited about something.
Did you see Spider-Man No Way Home?
Yes, I was less excited about that, but I was a little excited.
So were you excited coming out of that?
Yeah, I left really happy.
Right.
That's true.
Yeah.
I left happy with this one too, though.
Because that movie overachieved. Like, Spider-Man No Way Home, I was like, oh my gosh, I almost can't believe I'm seeing this.
I agree. So here you go. Batman, y'all. The context I'll give you is I'm not a movie buff per se, but I like movie. I like to look a little deeper than like the surface level of movies. Christopher Nolan, if I have to pick, is my favorite director. I thought going back to Memento and Inception and some of his earlier stuff, The Prestige, like his stuff is awesome. And then what he did with the Batman series changed superhero movies forever. And that's not just my opinion. Many, many folks
I'm going to say something kind of tough.
Sure.
I feel like Chris Nolan's been on something of a downward slope.
Yes, I agree. It is hard to keep that excellence up,
Because Tenet was not good.
Confusing as hell. I thought it was acted and shot well. Just I didn't make
And I also thought the final Batman movie was the weakest of them. With the one with Bane, Dark Knight Rises. The thing that
split reviews on that.
The thing that made me dislike that movie was all of the police officers going into the tunnels, which
didn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense.
Parts of the logic didn't make sense.
They're underground for approximately a week. And then they come up and they don't have beards, like, you know, like has anyone been showering down there? Apparently not, but like they're all just like, it looks like they've been down there for a few hours. I mean, like, what the hell do you do down there for 5
all
days
those
or whatever?
Cops would be a hot mess. They have guns and shit. Yeah, that would be awful.
Or just like at a minimum, you'd be kind of, you know, and then they run down. I guess it's a metaphor, but it's like they're like running toward the other. Anyway, so that was one of the things that lost me.
I thought that. Coming off The Dark Knight, which was
great,
probably the best superhero movie of all time. One of my favorite movies of all time, ignoring the genre. Tough, and Heath Ledger passed away.
Yeah, totally.
Like, which also added hype to his amazing performance. Like, go down the list. So I thought he delivered. Like, when the expectations were so high, you can't beat it. Like, I thought it was a pretty good job, all things considered. And I did enjoy the movie a lot. But I will say this Batman. So I would say, like, knowing that how much I love the last ones, I was like, all right. Are they going to kill it? Like ruin it, kill it? And then I thought that the Ben Affleck Batmans are pretty awful. It's Zack Snyder, right? Like, I mean, he's done some good stuff. I love 300. I loved. I actually liked the Snyder cut of the Justice League. I didn't like what they came up with when the studio got their hands on it. Anyway, that was awful. I was like, what are they going to do with this? And they got Edward Cullen situation going on with our boy Robert Pattinson as Batman, and it was. He might be my favorite Batman. Honestly, first of all, he's got the jawline for it, man. Like, what a jawline on that dude. Like, I don't know if he's had work done. Doesn't matter. It's freaking, like, you're looking at his jaw half the movie, and it's a good jaw. But Batman's always, like, supposed to be a damaged character, right? Parents died, grows up super rich, lost in the world, right? Tries to use money for good, but in a dark way, right? But the Christian Bale Batman that was damaged was, like my parents' generation, boomer generation damage, where it's like I got pent up shit and I have to break stuff to like get it out in unhealthy ways. This was very like brooding 21st century damaged, where Bruce Wayne is not this cocky philanthropist, entrepreneur, badass business guy, figurehead in the community. He's a damaged, rich prince, if you will. And he's got the like, he kind of looks like Edward Cullen from Twilight with like the hair swoop. He's pale, he's brooding. And then it made Batman so much more interesting to me because it really felt a little more relatable. And then the last thing I'll say, it's shot to Ave Maria, essentially. Like it's shot to classical.
Wow.
And like the movie opens with Ave Maria. I'm not going to do spoilers, but that's the only, like it opens with classical music. And then every other fight scene is like themed to that Ave Maria throughout the whole movie. It's dynamite. Matt Reeves, the director, kicked ass. Well done. Go see it, man. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. There are a couple moments we can nitpick and I don't want to spoil and stuff like that, but it was wonderful. Yeah.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
I will say having it to look forward to has been a delight. Next week I can share my own experience, which I'm sure will be positive because this thing is right on my alley, truly. Yep. Just a random campaign story before we move on.
Sure.
You remember seeing Joker when we were running for president?
Joaquin Phoenix?
Yeah, because we were in New Hampshire. So here's what happens. You're campaigning for president, let's say.
Yep.
Your last event ends at 9 p.m. Mm-hmm. And then you're like, what are we going to do?
Because
like, there's no
Friday
campaigning night. At 10 p.m.
And by the way, your Saturday events aren't always early. Like sometimes they are, but they're not. It's a weekend early. It's like 10:30 or so. So you could stay up kind of late. Not super late.
So we'd be done at 9, and then I would. And the funny thing about being the candidate too is if I suggest it, then everyone's like, "Cool,
can't wait."
But like if I don't suggest it, then everyone's like, "I guess we should pretend to work," or like, but like, what are you really going to do
Good point.
Between 9 p.m. and midnight on like a Thursday or Friday night?
Yeah, it's either go to a bar or we do something.
Right,
as a staff,
and so I suggested like, "Hey, anyone want to see Joker?" And then people were like, "Yeah." So do you remember seeing that?
Yep, we saw movies all the time. We saw some bad ones and some good ones.
Yeah, so Joker was a good one.
Joker was,
and then now I feel like the Batman is kind of a complement to that. To the extent you can take any deep societal lessons from the fact that this is the new version of the Batman. Any thoughts?
You definitely can. I think I don't want to spoil it, but the Riddler, the villain, is very much a version of this. It's honestly, guys, like the damaged men on all sides of the coin here. It's a lot of what we're talking about. So I'm excited for you to see it and we can break it down. But The villains themselves are, have their own issues with their own masculinity. The heroes, for sure. The people that pick a side, right? It's really well done. It sets it up for success. The last thing I'll say is Colin Farrell is in this movie, which I did not. I think I knew that. He's
apparently unrecognizable.
Unrecognizable, because I forgot he was in it and did not. I was like, wonder who that actor was, and I was like, that's Colin Farrell. It's wonderful. I've been listening to soundtrack all day. It's a little creepy to work to, so don't really recommend that. Anyway, I'm curious. DM us if you hated it, or I'm curious. Most people I've talked to have really liked it. Daily Mail said it was too woke.
Like it,
that's not true.
If you don't like it, you have poor taste.
You suck. No, actually, I'm curious because I'm curious of.
Our producers also love it. Yeah. So at this point, I'm very, very much expecting to love it.
I keep saying last thing I'll say, but this was fun. I sat next to a guy who went to the movie by himself. I went with my sister because Carly can't see movies. Wait.
Quick digression. Do you see movies by yourself?
I try not to, but I have. I'm trying to think of what last one I had. I usually, if no one wants to go with me, I usually just wait.
I will say that I have 100% seen movies by myself.
What was the last one you saw by yourself?
It's been a little while, but so this is one situation that I've been in. I very much vividly remember this, where Evelyn and I have one young child or baby or toddler. The baby goes to sleep at, let's call it 9:30 p.m. Evelyn goes to sleep with him. And then I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I think I could probably catch a late movie. And then I just figured, why do I do that?
Father of the year.
So I've definitely done that. So there was a guy who saw it alone?
So there was a guy who saw it. So I went with my sister because Carly can't see these movies. They give her nightmares, and she cries she cried at the end of Avengers Endgame, I think, or Infinity War, one of them.
When half the people in the universe
you shouldn't be, you shouldn't be crying.
I suppose that's pretty.
But most people aren't crying at the end. They're like, whoa, right? Anyway, but there was a guy who went by himself, and he's clearly a huge fan, and just giggling, or he's almost clapping the whole time. And I normally I'd find that kind of annoying because it's a noise, but I found it really endearing that he really loved it and was clearly there for. He was super excited about it. And he seemed to thoroughly enjoy it. So that gives me hope that the true fans really love it too.
To the extent that I have seen movies alone, I think virtually all of them were comic book movies or superhero movies. I would just be like, what? Just when I show up and see the movie. And, that's the kind of movie I would go see alone.
Yeah. Criteria for that has to be either you got nothing else to do, but now with all the streaming platforms, less so the case, or the movie you got to see in theater,
which has gotten weaker and weaker for me. I even saw Dune at home, which I know I was not supposed to do, but I was like,
I saw it at home too. Yeah.
I mean, Dune was definitely one of those.
Probably way better in theaters though. The shots in that movie are pretty wild.
Okay, so see the Batman. See the Batman. I can't wait to discuss this 2022 version. If you know me, you know that I think that our data should be ours. Unfortunately, every time we surf the web, there are big tech companies tracking our every move, our every click. They want to sell us and our data to the highest bidder. If that doesn't sound like something you want, and it shouldn't, you should use ExpressVPN like I do. Every time you connect to ExpressVPN, you get a random IP address shared with lots of other people. That makes it just about impossible for third parties to identify you and your location and harvest your data. Best of all, ExpressVPN is super easy to use. No matter what device you're on, phone, laptop, TV, all you have to do is tap one button and you are there, anonymous, protected. So if you really want to go incognito and protect your privacy, secure yourself with the #1 rated VPN like I do. Visit expressvpn.com/yang and get 3 extra months for free. That's expressvpn.com/yang. Go to expressvpn.com/yang to learn more. The second thing is I am holding in my hot little hand. What am I holding? Zach's new book. Zach is set to be a published author. The name of the book is Long Shot: How Political Nobodies Took Andrew Yang, that's me, national, and the new playbook that let us build a movement.
It's real, man.
I'm holding my hand.
That's the advanced copy. So we don't have the hard ones yet.
It is now on sale, pre-sale on Amazon. So you can look for it. It's called Long Shot again.
I'm going to put it in my bio. You've now forced me to do a book launch, which I have not. Let's figure out when to do it.
This is the pre-launch.
Yeah, you want to
like
the
thing that is now available. And I want to say to everyone, this is the book that you hoped I would write but did not. And by that, what I mean was when you bought Forward, if you bought Forward, there were stories from the presidential, but that was not the backbone of the book, if you will. It was, in some ways, a narrative from the candidate's perspective, but it didn't go into the nuts and bolts, the stages, the decisions, the drama. Like it didn't read like a movie. And Zach's book has all of that shit in it. It has all of like the what are we gonna do moments and the
debate room strategy and
stuff that you hoped that I would write about and did not. Zach wrote about. But it was also a sign of the different experiences we each had, where Zach thought strategically and tactically, and in the framework of a giant political campaign, and I did not, because my jam was wake up, be like, what am I doing? Local radio talk show here in New Hampshire.
Especially by the end, too.
Okay. And then where are we going next? To a diner? Okay. And so, I was consumed with just trying to knock out what was whatever was in front of me.
Of course.
And so then when I retraced my steps and wrote the book, like I frankly did not pretend that I was Zach. But Zach does not need to pretend, because Zach is Zach. And so this book is excellent. Evelyn is on the record as saying she liked this book more than my book. Because
it's funnier. Like, not that I'm funny. I'm not. The story's funny though. Like
the story's funny. The book is funny. No. I guess that means by definition you're funny.
I guess. Like, I'm a funnier writer than I am. Like, if you hang out with me, you're not gonna be
not funny.
What a funny guy. No one thinks that. Y'all listen to this podcast, once in a while, I bet like 100 when it comes to jokes. Most 90% of my jokes are not funny.
But the book is funny.
The book is funny. Well, I got to edit it, right? I got to cut out, and I had editors. I literally had people paid to edit out my bad jokes. So
it's just good ones. So the ratio is good.
So look, the point of this, and we'll do a kind of a deeper dive on some of the tactics in there, because I think
I get to interview Zach.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, we're doing it.
But whether you agree, no matter where people come down on you or me or your politics or our policies or what we did, there's no doubt that we were on to something. And I wanted to back up.
We objectively overperformed and had an
correct.
impact.
And what did we do that I thought other campaigns should have been doing? And what does this say for the rest of politics and branding in general? Because we, frankly, played a different game. And so the book is what was that playbook that let us play the different game? So,
and I really would give you full credit, Zach, because you always had that different game in mind. And you could see what other people were doing in the conventional wisdom, and you were like, that's dumb. And then you would chart your own path, in part because you were new, but in part because you were confident and had your own vision. And my quote on this book jacket is, my campaign would never have reached millions without Zach's leadership and strategies. Anyone who wants to make change in the world or who simply loves an incredible story should read this book.
Thanks,
Andrew
man.
Yang. And I cop to that. It is excellent. It truly is the book that you hoped I would write but did not, because Zach wrote it. So
it's going to be fun.
Pre-order your copy right now. Long shot. We'll continue to talk about it. We'll actually, Zach will go through some of the big lessons from it. Maybe he'll even do a reading on one of the podcasts.
We'll do an episode on it, probably closer to launch. So it comes out in May, but you can pre-order it now. I recommend, if you're going to buy it early, because it's definitely going to light the world on fire and definitely getting the New York Times bestseller list. And I've heard a lot of celebrities have said it's the best book they've ever read, but that's just I've heard. I'm not sure.
Many people say.
Down. Many people, numerous people have reported it's awesome.
But yeah, pre-order it now, and then you can be among the first to read it. And then we can talk about it in earnest.
So it's gonna be great. It's fun. I will say it is really weird. It's weird talking about myself. You know what I'm saying?
Well, one thing I don't know how you do will relate.
Yeah.
Is that promoting a book you wrote is difficult. So I'm going to talk about the different orders of difficulty of promoting shit.
Okay, cool.
So.
Wait, you're actually an expert in this.
Yeah,
so
because I've done
useful shit.
I've done each of these. I'm going to separate it into 5 categories, and it's going to be from easiest to hardest. Okay. So the hardest things to promote are just you yourself, and the main example of that is political candidacy. It's very hard to be like, I'm running for mayor because, or president or city council or school board.
I'm awesome.
Or whatever it is, because it's like, oh, like, then what's your jam? And then you have to immediately follow it up with like, and here's why I'm so awesome, impressive, moral, driven. Here's my cause.
And better than other people, right? Like you're asking people to make a judgment there.
And they have to make an objective judgment on just how you are as a performer.
Yeah.
Because people will do it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like, what, you're running for Congress? All right, let me hear your spiel. And then they're like, oh, this was, good or not good.
I'll say this. We churned through consultants and staffers on the campaign. Not like we ended up firing them, but they'd come in the car and you'd, after a performance, like you'd get in the car and they'd be in there. And they would just start beating into you and like nitpicking, like, don't smile like that. Don't breathe like that. Say it this way. And I'm like, we do 7 of these a day. So imagine like the guys who spend 2 hours a day in aggregate getting shit on by you. What an awful experience. Stop. Like that, and people couldn't help themselves. It's politics. Anyway.
Well, it's because that's the way they think they're going to add value.
Yeah. And that's why they become puppets.
It's a little bit like lawyering, because like lawyers, you have to come in. The way you add value is by pointing out like the thing that could blow up in your face. So you get intrinsically negative. It's one reason why I left the law as quickly as I did.
Interesting.
It's like the consultant thing.
Negative, huh? That
it's
makes
like
sense.
All right. So number 1 is you're the candidate. That is the hardest thing to promote, because then you have to just be like, me, I'm awesome all the time.
Yep.
But a not so distant second is I am promoting a book that I wrote. Because the book is very much identified with you.
It's a reflection of you.
It's a reflection of you. There's no way that you can say like, hey, I wrote this book, but I really don't care and it's not that big a deal. You know what I mean? Because you clearly spent hundreds of hours writing the book.
Yeah, and a refined version of you too. Like you had to take time to, not as a one-off thing you said. It's like
so I was an author before I was a political candidate, and it was deeply uncomfortable promoting that first book that I wrote. Smart People Should Build Things, published in 2014, and going around being like, read this book. It's like really important or profound or impactful. Excruciating.
It's awful.
So
I'm not thrilled about this book tour, if you will. This
book promotion, period,
book promotion, whatever we're going to call it. Yeah.
It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So, and you can lump into.
And by the way, boo-hoo, we wrote books, it's hard. That's not what I'm saying.
It's just difficult. Like, and so right next to book, you could fill in any creative project and it would be the same.
Art would be similar, right?
Yeah, like, hey, I wrote these poems. I guess it's close to a book. Hey, I made this indie film. Hey,
I wrote a song.
Hey, this is my one-man Broadway show.
Yes.
Hey, this is my music.
Yes.
All of these very painful to promote, because they're going to be making a judgment, and it is like
reflection of you.
A reflection of you, and there's a moment where it seems like a little bit self-indulgent for you to be trying to get them to listen to your music or whatever.
Of course,
it is.
Pay attention to me.
You feel uncomfortable.
Yep.
So this is category number 2. Very, very hard.
Yep.
Category number 3 is when you're doing something on behalf of someone else. It gets easier.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, oh, my friend is doing this. And so
you sell someone else, it's easier than selling yourself.
I am being a good friend by promoting them. And so, please do check it out. And like this is me showing that I'm connected and, like have friends or whatever. And I'm a good friend.
Yeah. I used to work with financial advisors, and they manage money for people, and they have to sell themselves and their investment management skills. Every one of them were better if they had someone else selling their investment management skills.
Yep. So having a hype person, wing person,
hype
whatever.
Person. Yep.
Very, very important. Number 4, hey, here's my company, my brilliant company idea.
Your idea, project.
Yeah. So this is doable because this is an order of difficulty. Yeah, it's order of difficulty. Number 1, the hardest is I'm the candidate. Number 2 is here's my deep artistic offering from my soul, and thus judge me.
Song, movie, book,
yeah,
play, show, whatever it is. Yep.
Okay. Number 3 is I have this company idea I want to pitch you on.
Okay.
That's number 3. Number 4 is I have a nonprofit I want you to donate to. That one's easy because you have sense of morality. You're a good person.
It's a cause.
And then number 5 is when you're promoting someone else on someone else's behalf.
Okay.
That's the easiest, because then you're like, hey, I'm a good person. My friend is running for office, doing this thing, and I'm trying to help them out.
And they say no. If they say no, it's because they don't like your friend, right? It's not.
Pretty much the further from you the thing is you're promoting, the easier it is.
And also what the people get back.
Because you see more selfless.
But also what they get back. Like you're promoting a company, right? Yes, it's about you, but theoretically the company maybe offers a service or something to try or some sort of value prop, right?
Yeah, there'll be like a value exchange.
Yes.
But the nonprofit and your friend, those make you seem selfless.
Yes.
And so there's something selfish about I'm running for office or this is my artistic offering.
Yes. Now I'd argue if you want to leave a mark on the world or make the world a little different than it was, like doing one of these 5 activities is in that, possibly par for the course, right? It's in the category of what you need to do to accomplish something, right?
Well, at a minimum, number 5.
Yes.
Or 4. We all struggle sometimes, and it's particularly true in the winter. Sometimes you come back out of that funk, but sometimes you need some serious help. I mean, professional help. Now, getting professional help is easier than ever. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp Online Therapy, and I, for one, am super pumped to let people know about what BetterHelp can do for you. BetterHelp is online therapy that offers video, phone, and even live chat sessions with your therapist, so you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. It's much more affordable than in-person therapy, and you can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Give it a try and see why over 2 million people have used BetterHelp Online Therapy. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and forward listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/yang. That's BetterHelp.com/yang. Get yourself some BetterHelp today. You'll be glad you did. So I made a list of my life's goals in my 20s, which I recommend highly. If you make a list of your life's goals, have you done this?
I did. They shift a bit, but I have.
Have you accomplished most of them?
No. I hit a couple.
Wow, what are they?
I wanted to... my life's goal is to make $1 billion and buy the Buffalo Bills and keep them in Buffalo forever. And I've thought about that as like facetiously, but I'm like, no, I actually want to do this. And like, it has to be a legitimate chance to buy the Buffalo Bills. Because I imagine the Pagulas who own them, I don't want my whole life to be on a whim. Like he's like, no, I don't want to sell them to you, right? But like legitimately get at the table, make a real offer.
Is there a chance the Bills leave Buffalo?
Always a chance. Small market team.
All right.
Always a chance.
Okay.
Any Bills fan, like, yeah.
So what are these other life's goals of yours?
That was one. I wanted to. Some of them I've hit, right? I wanted to get involved in politics.
Done.
Did that pretty well.
Book, proof.
Book. I was like maybe right. I was like in the like maybe category. The other ones are like family and personal and things like that.
What about you? Get married, have 2 kids.
Yeah.
At minimum. Though 2 is fine. I'm happy to say I've knocked out like 80% of my life's goals already.
And now you're playing house money.
Yeah, they do morph to your point.
Or like sometimes you think you want to. Well, one of my goals was to start something, right?
Done, right?
So I started Suit Up. So I did that, and that was great. And I was like, okay. Then my other one big goal was I want to take a ridiculous risk. I look back and like
that's
I'm happy
also
I did.
done,
We did that with you. But then it was like one goal is like I wanted to run for office, and like I still feel that sometimes, but that's
try it out with a book tour, bro.
Different calculation, different calculus now. So sorry.
So some of my goals are things like improve millions of people's lives for the better. Have I done that? Arguably not.
Yeah. Have something good to write on your tombstone.
So some of them were very, very big. But the reason I raised this is that one of my goals at the time when I wrote this list was elevate a national political figure.
That's right.
It was not be one. It was just like help one.
You ended up being yourself.
And so this was your argument is that, hey, in order to accomplish something, you need to tackle some of these promotional elements.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue that it's okay to be in number 5, which is, look, I'm just going to help other people who are doing great stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need to be the doer yourself. You can just be like, hey, I see someone who's awesome doing something and let me help them. And so that's where I was when I drafted this list in my 20s. Like, I don't need to be the guy. The problem that has occurred now is that if you want to build certain types of things, like let's say a political movement, like you kind of need person to hang it on.
Yep.
And in this case, I was the person. And now I still am a person.
Yeah.
So the thing I would suggest is, number one, write your life's goals down. They can be small or big. So one I had was, own a dog, which we had and unfortunately had to give away because our older son was allergic.
Yeah.
Stay in good physical condition, which, is kind of come and gone. come again. Running for office, it turns out, ran very much
awful
against
for physical health and some mental
physical health. So some things are like that. There are other goals that were very ambitious, but writing down these goals been incredibly beneficial because when you have a choice, then you actually make the choice that is in alignment with your goals. And if you haven't written your goals down, then you're not really going in a direction.
Yep. It's just a dream.
And then choosing to elevate other people, I think, is a fine way to go. I do not think you need to be the person. If you find yourself as the person, then, fantastic too. But I wouldn't put that on people.
So let me tell you this add on. So I used to, when I was at UBS, think about it, I'm in this like corporate machine of a for-profit bank, right? And I'm in the philanthropy side of things. So there's all these millennials coming to me, my peers, younger, a little older than me, come to me like, I'd love to do something that made me feel good about what I'm doing. And what advice do you have, or how do I get into what you're doing? They weren't like wanting my job, but they want to know how to get in like the impact space or feel better about their.
Everyone wanted to work in that space, true.
Yeah, at least it's a space that sounds good on paper for sure. But the best advice I could give people is because I got it myself. I'll say to you is if someone said to me, stop asking yourself, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you see yourself? I hate that question. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Or what are your life's goals, X, Y, Z? I mean, those are fine. But the real question is, if you died today, right now, I just pulled out a gun and shot you, you're dead. I got to deal with the consequences, but it doesn't matter to you. You're dead, right? What would you be mad about not accomplishing? What would make you angry? And what's cool about the answer to that question is that it's essentially, hopefully you'll know instantly, but if not, you'll know within 24 or 48 hours. You'll know because you'll think about it, it'll eat at you, and you'll know. And that answer you'll be surprised, a lot of folks, it's not always career driven. Actually, most of the times it's not. It might be, I wish I spent more time with my parents. I wish I traveled to Tuscany.
Generally, it's going to be personal.
I wish I became an expert in something, right? And then what you do, so for me, and it changes too over your course of your life. So I said one was like, I never started anything. Maybe I should start something, right? And then now I was like, frankly, like my big one now is like, now I want to, frankly, have more influence and frankly, like raise money for good, like use the money for good, or build something that makes money for good. Because I've learned the power of that. It's kind of where I'm at. I'm still kind of crystallizing it, but you'll learn that. And what you'll find, it's not always career driven, but it can drive your career. Because you may learn, I love wine, and now you need a job that lets you, maybe you want to be in San Francisco where you can go up to Napa every once in a while and learn, or live in Italy. Or you want to spend more time with your parents. You wish you're a better father, husband, X, Y, Z. Now you set up the career to make sure you're not living with regret, which is what we're kind of all trying to avoid. We all want to maximize the time we have. So anyway, best advice I ever got. I didn't make it up. Friend Sarah Waymeyer made it up, or I don't know if she made it up, but she told me about it. I'll give her credit. She's a former colleague of mine. She probably doesn't listen to this, but I got to give credit. It's not me.
So a couple of very small things happened. Maybe not that small, but I got a couple of affirmations over the last week that I want to share with people. So the first was that I wrote an op-ed for the Washington Post about struggle of boys and men. I think most people here have read it.
Or at least heard about us.
You should definitely. It's not that long. We should read it.
Yeah, you should read it. It's good.
I don't know.
I don't put the OG version out there. By the way, it was better. No offense to Washington Post, because I do like that they publish a lot of op-eds.
They did.
They edited this bad boy up.
They edited it up.
Yeah, I mean they have to. It's like their job.
Yep.
That's thing.
So an English textbook company, not British, but like a textbook. It's like English composition.
Oh, like English the subject.
Yeah, English the subject.
Yep.
Contacted me and wants to use that op-ed in their textbook that would be taught in high school English classes around the country as an example of English composition and I guess sound argumentation. So I'm super pumped about it because it's kind of a nice feeling, but two, the substance of that article is actually going to be taught in classrooms, because if you read it, then you'll be like, oh, snap, apparently like, boys struggle. Like it makes me very happy.
Yes.
Sometimes you produce things and you have no idea if it's going to reach an audience, make an impact. Is it just going to be like like a pebble in a pond where there are ripples and the ripples disappear? But on this one, I'm feeling pretty good because hell, if it's getting taught in thousands of classrooms, like it will probably influence some people's thinking.
It's a good legacy, theoretically.
Like it's kind of high on my list of things. War Normal People's being used as a textbook in some
a lot of colleges
classrooms, which made me very happy. Gave me a similar feeling. But this feels even wider in terms of scope because it's like, a lot of high school kids be reading that.
Yeah, it's massively important. Let me ask you this. I think it's good advice when talking about starting things. You said this to me. I wanted you to share it with everybody and elaborate on it. You said every time you start something, you're going to gain a bunch of friends and you're going to lose a bunch of friends.
If you do something significant, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, if it's nothing, then you won't care. But
yeah.
And you said that to me, and I was like, absolutely. Because you have a bunch of people that say they're your friend. But then when push comes to shove, you're like, hey, will you donate to this cause? Or will you come to my launch event? Or will you send this to your friend, like introduce me to your friend that works at XYZ. Like little things you'll ask your good friends to help you with something. You'll be surprised who does it and who doesn't. You'll be extremely surprised.
Yep. It's happened to me over and over.
Mind-blowingly surprised, actually. And it's even more surprising, though, the folks that actually do help. Because it's usually not how you expect.
Well, you form relationships out of it. Like someone will drop everything to help you, and then all of a sudden you're like,
wow,
I love you.
You are great. Thank you.
Yeah. I meet great people through the Forward Party every single day, and I appreciate the heck out of it. It's true of the Yang Gang, too, in the presidential.
Always. Lobby 3, I'm still meeting new people. Actually, meeting a ton of new people.
The Lobby 3 people are really
That's going great.
Awesome.
By the way, it's going fun. We're excited to make that happen.
Yeah. So that was one really positive piece of news. It was small, but it felt great. The other thing that I guess objectively would be considered significant is I was asked to speak at the commencement of Columbia Law School, which I'm a graduate of. Yeah. And so you can imagine being asked to speak at the commencement of your alma mater. It's like
it's a big deal, man. How you feeling? I haven't congratulated you personally. Congrats.
I got that and I was like, wow, really?
Did that come via email? What happened? Like they just said, "Dear Andrew, like, we of Columbia, so hear ye.
A friend who's a professor there texted me being like, hey, great news. They want you to speak. You'll get an official thing, but let me know whether you'd be positively inclined before they send it.
The drum up.
So apparently, they don't want to be turned down, I guess. And so I was like, so I looked at the date and was like, I can do that. And then they sent me a nice letter.
Are you? I'm assuming you're gonna write a speech and not wing it.
Yeah, I'm gonna write. I've actually started to think a bit about what I'm going to say. I want it to be relevant to people who are at that age and stage, which I do remember. But yeah, I mean, a commencement speech is its own form. You know what I mean? I don't know what my ambitions are. My ambitions are just to do a good job for the people who are right there. But I will probably write something and share it because, I mean, why do the work just for a few hundred people if you can?
Well, very rarely do you get to, I mean, you're different running for president, but very rarely in life do you get to give a speech where hundreds or thousands of people are actively listening. And you can even argue parts of politics, not everybody's actively listening. But I would say at a couple moments, weddings and graduation speeches, people are listening. They're hoping someone gives a good speech. When you go, if you've ever been to a college graduation, you're like, I hope this doesn't suck. It's hot. Maybe look for someone to distract you. I will say that was on one of my goals, give a commencement speech. And when I was a senior graduating from college, they had a student commencement speaker option. And I was like, fuck yes, I'm going to do this. One, because I didn't want, it was for my majors, for public policy. It was we probably had 400
So you got chosen?
I got, no one, a few people applied, but it wasn't as competitive as I thought it was. So I got chosen. I gave the speech, and I didn't tell my parents and surprise them, which was hilarious because they're
funny.
Proud moment, I think, for them. But honestly, no one wanted it because everybody was hungover. It was graduation day or whatever.
Did you move mountains with it?
I moved mountains. I thought it was a good speech. Yeah, it was good. I thought it was good. I'm probably somewhere on YouTube. But I will say that's pressure fueled, by the way. Similar to it's up there with the best man speech in the sense that everybody knows you're giving the speech.
The most nervous I've ever been was for my brother's wedding, best man
That's
speech.
terrifying.
Because you only got one shot at it.
One shot, everybody's remembering it.
And if it goes poorly, you never get it back.
I feel like we talked about this before. It sets a tone for the whole wedding.
There have been so few speeches I've had to give where it's like, I'm not going to get this one back. Whereas that one, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't
like,
get married again.
When I'm president, it's like, well, I gave him a speech.
I can do it better tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I'll just do it better tomorrow. But then for that one, it was like, well, my brother hopefully just gets married once.
More nervous before the best man speech or the Democratic debate stage first time? Maybe the second time, because the first time you were really sick.
Yeah.
Which I talk about in the book, actually.
Best man speech.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
I was
crazy.
really, I was like, I was so nervous that I, was quarreling with Evelyn because, we were running late or whatever. I was like, I really cannot be late. Like, like the rest of it. So yeah, I was very, very nervous. I was a little bit nervous. I also married my cousin to her husband. Yep. And this was when I was running for president, and I was totally unprepared. I was like, and I was like, it'll be fine. And then I got up there, and then I actually did get nervous. I was like, oh no.
You told me you did a good job, though. You said it went well.
Oh yeah, I landed the plane.
Okay, landed the plane.
They're still married to this day.
Yeah, they did it. Oh, geez. That's crazy. You were more. I was very nervous because the other thing about if you're ever a best man, everybody knows you're best man, so they ask you about your speech the whole time before it happens. So if you're just 10x your nerves just because of that fact alone. Like if you're kind of nervous, the fact that it was like, are you ready for your speech? You ready for your speech? Are you nervous for your speech?
You feel like you're carrying the weight of the wedding on your shoulders.
Which is really weird because you shouldn't be. It's not your wedding. Anyway.
I did feel that.
I felt it too.
And again,
don't fuck up.
And they're still married. So, I'm like doing great. I'm still married.
Yep.
Brother's still married. My cousin's still married. So those are some of the positive things that have been coming around where it feels like there's some energy lifting the message and ideas we're putting out there. So the big subject we wanted to talk about this week was born of course, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which is horrendous and tragic.
There were some comments that we were too glib about it because we have casual conversations. I want to be very clear. The situation's fucked up. It's dark. It breaks my heart. I'm not okay with this. It's not casual to talk about World War III. You and I have a tendency to try to see the positive things in life and laugh. It's how we cope. I'm sorry if people were offended by that. I mean, that's the type of thing I don't like to apologize too often for internet comments, but that's a real one to me. Sorry. Keep going.
I mean, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, it like every day you wake up and you zoom in and you see the death and the strife and the refugees and the rest
It's heartbreaking.
It's awful. So to that point, so as someone whose family immigrated to this country, the sense of America as being a good place. I mean, there's this idea of American exceptionalism where everyone's like, America has a special place in the world. And I think, it was Shining City on a Hill.
City on a Hill, yeah.
Was that Reagan?
That was Reagan.
Yeah, so Shining City on a Hill.
Yep.
And then during Reagan, you had the Berlin Wall come down. You had the USSR lose the Cold War.
Right.
And so there was this arc of America as this force for good and developing democracy. There was this idea, wow, was this incredibly positive? But they called a period like the end of history because they said at this point, democracy and globalized economy were going to win. And then that was that. What a happy, positive moment that was. Now, things have kind of rebounded because you've had authoritarian countries come up and demonstrate that there are different models of competitiveness and success, most prominently China. There was like a long period of time when America thought, hey, if we can just get commerce in there, then they're going to liberalize. They're going to wind up democratizing because you can't have this thriving Chinese middle class buying washing machines and watching Western movies who are going to accept a repressive regime. Of course, that was all wrong. Like that, it turns out that they were perfectly happy with not perfectly happy. I mean, I don't mean to say that, but that there hasn't been like a real contest of ideas within China in terms of democracy versus authoritarianism. So there was an arc throughout the 80s, certainly under Reagan and Bush, and then I would argue it persisted through the 90s that America was this exceptional democracy. And then there's been this increased questioning of that. There's been like an increased questioning of conventional histories, saying that, and again, America does have massive moral stains on itself throughout its history. But I still feel like this should be a time for a reinspection of both America's place in the world and whether one would accept that America, despite its failings, is a force for improving people's lives everywhere around the world, hopefully. And also that there are massive opportunities for us to improve people's lives here and now, within our borders. That there's like a positivity, it's like that this sense, if you lose the faith that America will do the right thing, then you lose something very, very enormous. And one of the things that I try to do, and people, sometimes, said like, oh, this approach won't work or whatnot. But I think you'll appreciate this, having started a nonprofit, is you believe that someone's going to help, and then you kind of present that belief to them, and then sometimes they help.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like I feel that about America, where it's like you believe America will help, whether it's help the Ukrainian people end this war and convince Putin that this war was deeply profane and unjust,
right.
Or whether it's helping Americans live a better life, where you say, look, there is no reason why we need to have this level of scarcity and deprivation and poverty in the richest country in the history of the world. Like, we can actually make those changes. So this is something that I believe in my heart first, that this is a good country and that the people are good. But I also think it's a better way to go because it's more likely to lead to what you want. It's more likely to lead to good places.
Right. Let me see this real quick. I'm going to do what you've done to me a number of times. I'm going to quote myself. And this is actually going to be real meta because I'm going to quote.
Look at this. He's quoting a book that has not yet been published, but that you can buy right now.
I'm going to quote myself quoting someone else. When you're young, you think the cavalry is coming to save us. When you grow up, you realize that you are the cavalry. Quote Andrew Yang. I don't know where you got that quote from, but you're my source on this. And it's kind of what you're saying. It's like America, or is the Bill Clinton quote where he said, "There's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed
with what's right about America."
There's nothing wrong with America that can't be fixed with what's right about America. And theoretically, America is set up to bring the cavalry. That is what it's set up to do. Like a pure, like close, a massive democracy. The question I have for you is if America doesn't exist right now in the form it's in its superpower form, who stops Putin? Maybe the EU, and that's a big maybe. Like maybe NATO, right? That's not the EU, but maybe NATO.
I mean, you got to know that the U.S. is the muscle of NATO.
Yeah. So NATO less or U.S. less NATO, he probably does what he wants, and that's the point. Like if we don't exist.
The other major domino that everyone's talking about is China invading Taiwan.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of parallels.
Of course.
And I obviously have deep ties to the region, as the debate moderators would say, because they always just ask me China questions. But
you have deep ties to China. Jesus.
Well, to the region. I mean, I have family in Taiwan.
Yeah,
I have family in China too. So, but everyone knows that what's happening in Ukraine and the U.S. response will be something of an indicator of the response to an act of aggression on the part of China against Taiwan to reintegrate. Because historically, so Russia's making the case, hey, Ukraine is part of Russia, the USSR, like we go back a long way. It turns out Ukrainians do not want to be part of some reconstituted USSR.
Yep.
Now, the parallels with China and Taiwan, they were one country.
Yep.
Until the late 1940s. And then the nationalists came over And so they've been distinct from each other for, let's call it 73 years or whatever it is. But China has a very long, frame of reference. So they'd be like, hey, we're one country. And so that's been their attitude from, day one. So for them to try and take back Taiwan is just reclaiming something that has always been part of you.
Theirs, yeah.
Which is, I believe, kind of the Russian thinking, which obviously that's
right.
completely off base. So your question about an American vacuum of power and what happens, I mean, it's something people are asking around the world.
Yeah.
Because like it or not, there really is no heavyweight.
And no one likes to think, this is the problem, like no one likes to think like this. We're talking about necessary evils. No one likes to think that. Like if you don't think America's good, but we're a necessary evil because that evil's worse, right? Maybe that's what it is. Like America's done a bunch of terrible things to get to where it is, right? Done a bunch of amazing things too, right? Capitalism causes a whole bunch. It helped us build the greatest military in the world, right? And the most powerful. Put resources to work very, very quickly. It's also had a bunch of people pile up at the bottom. It's been unjust in many ways, right? These are questions no one knows the answer to, right? But I think your point, which is a good one, is that as we look at this war, it's a powerful and good reminder of what actual evil looks like.
Yes. And that framing troubled institutions like a country with problems like America as evil in the same way is not right.
It's not the same.
No.
And things like this should unite us. I don't know if the media is set up anymore to get us to a national consensus. Cash relief and UBI is actually the closest thing I've seen to a national consensus on anything in a while.
And that we all want to help Ukraine and the Ukrainian people.
Yeah.
I feel like that's
this is close. This is the biggest one we've seen.
Yeah, that's as close to rallying cry as we've seen.
So we're going to unpack this in a future episode in ways in terms of this, let's call it relative evil, which sounds strange, but it's relative morality in a way, applied morality.
Oh, you know what it is, Zach? It's like it's framing something troubled as evil when troubled might be a better descriptor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's it's like I told a lie, but I'm not a liar, right? Like if you do it all the time, then you're an actual liar. But if you make a mistake, I don't think you're a liar, right? You're imperfect. Yeah, and right? I think now there's certain things that don't, you shot somebody, like I think
this is one of the things that people sense about like the Forward Party and me and the rest of it is like I'm very, very reluctant to categorize just about anyone as genuinely evil, because in my experience there are very, very few evil people. Vladimir Putin, that's evil. But just about anyone else who's having an honest disagreement, I don't put in that category at all. And one of the symptoms of polarization that we have is that people are willing to cast their ideological enemies or just someone who disagrees with them on something as evil. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a disaster. I'm just myself very much not on that page. And I think that we should try and get as many people away from that page as we can.
Do you think that makes you a better or worse politician?
Probably a worse politician, because political figures like to cast things as conflicts between good and evil. And it's like, hey, you got to get us the resources we need to defeat evil this one more time. And if we do this, then all will be well. I mean, I think that's one reason why the dissatisfaction among Democrats right now is pronounced, is because it was framed as defeat Trump and then all these incredible things will happen. Like one of the things that boggles my mind when I hear it, and I hear it all the time, is when a political figure talks about, it's like, hey, if you elect me, we will defeat racism, defeat sexism, and I'm just like, okay, let me get this straight.
We'll applaud that, by the way. We stand up and get excited about that.
Let me get this straight. If you're in office, then we won't be a racist society or a sexist society anymore. It's like, wow, that's incredible. I mean, it's kind of the thing that we're kind of excited about Obama on. It's like, this will mean we're not racist anymore. So when we continue to make those appeals and then the reality does not change, then people get kind of fatigued, disheartened. Like you can't motivate people with fear and hatred all of the time, and then not have it either exhaust people or distort them.
It's the difference between a good politician and a good operator. So I love this. So Medicare for all, right? If you're a good politician, you're going to have a stance on Medicare for all. Like, keep it as is, or we're going Medicare for all, and that's it. It's free healthcare for whatever it is, right? If you're a good operator and you want to get something done, you're like, okay, right now we have Medicare for nobody, in this hypothetical situation. Would I take Medicare for 80% over the current situation? Yes. Would a good operator take 60 to 70%? Yes. But we don't, because it's good versus evil, right? If you're not Medicare for all, if you're Medicare for 99%, you're evil. You're out. And we've lost our ability to negotiate. I actually talk about it in the book. It's like, your brand is so identified with a strong issue, you can't compromise. It's bad politics to compromise. You have all the incentives to go the other way.
So to sum up, America has its problems, but it's no fucking Russia.
We shouldn't laugh about that. But I am, because it's like I sometimes think we should call this podcast the Rational Progressive. Like, I consider myself extremely progressive in the sense that I want to make the country better.
You want to help people do.
But I want to do it in a way that's going to work. And like, I'd rather get called out for being an asshole. I'd rather everyone think I'm an asshole, but solve the problems.
Yeah, I mean, this is the increasing problem, my friend, is that we're arguing. Meanwhile, our institutional performance keeps getting worse and worse, and like people's lives getting worse and worse, and like the arguments just get more and more heated. And you and I just want to actually make things work better and solve the problems. Well, you could call that rational progressive. You could call that pragmatic. You could call that a lot of things.
You call it a lot of things.
I call it forwardist.
But there are more people that think like us, like this, than there are that you see in the news that are extremist. I think that, and you know this because you live this with the Ford Party, but
I do.
We have to bring together the rational middle if we can.
And the rational middle, I'm going to go on a limb, thinks that America is a good place, a good people, a good country, and for my money, they are right.
Amen. Amen. Preach on, brother. All right, we'll be back next week. We got John Wood on Monday from Braver Angels.
Yes.
And you and I back Thursday. Book's out. Check it out.
Long Shot.
Long Shot. You can Google Long Shot by Zach, or it'll be on my Twitter bio. Check it out.
Get this book. We're going to do a reading next week. You can read it. No, we're not doing that.
We're going to read it. So we're going to do spoken word.
That's actually one of my constant jokes, is that like I would just bust out my book and be like, and now I'm going to read.
And now, chapter 2. I did read the audiobook. That's an adventure too. We'll talk about that, man. It's a lot.
It's going to be Zach as author coming up. So yeah, you guys definitely need to get a copy.
Reading Rainbow was my favorite show growing up, man. That's, I'm with you. Pick it up, put it down.